So the conference office can put up conference news and put it on all their church sites, every church in the conference, or every school in the conference. The union, if the churches and conferences and churches and schools give them permission, the union can say, we're having a Union Pathfinder Camporee, and they can write that article and it'll push down to every single conference in their union and every school and church in their union. And that makes your pages more dynamic. So at the same time, unions and usually conferences as a whole say, we're going to go on Adventist Church Pay. I forget the name of that one. But anyhow, the church one, they go on that together because the Treasury wants to know that the money's coming in and not have one church out here and one church out there. They say all churches can now come on to the online tithing program at the same time so that they know how to deal with the accounts and set the accounts up and do all of that. So usually it's by conference, but at the school level you can set it up as individual schools. You don't have to have the whole conference do it.
How does, this is kind of a question on Hunter. How does Hunter compare to RenWeb?
How does Hunter compare to RenWeb? RenWeb is a really good product. RenWeb has become, I've had some major concerns with RenWeb in the past. Their product has turned out to be a fairly decent product. I still have some concerns about RenWeb, and there's those that have concerns about Hunter. When you start talking about products, Fords and Chevys, Mac and Windows.
This is just comparable. That's what
when you talk about software, has anybody had any problems with Microsoft lately? You know, it doesn't matter what software package you choose, you're going to have some difficulties. From our point of view at the division, we in 4.5 or 5 years ago, we looked at all the major software packages available in North America. Hunter Systems was the #1 by leaps and bounds above any other. They had more private parochial schools than any other system in North America. They have 4,000 schools on Hunter Systems. They're the #1 parochial. That's all they write is for parochial schools. They don't do any public schools. It's only private schools. RenWeb didn't really even exist their company was founded in 2001. That's one of the concerns I have. And so RenWeb had already been in business for 25 years at that point. So we made a decision to try to standardize a package across North America. We've been trying to do that for 10 years. So we said, all right, we're going to standardize on one. And we chose one, Hunter Systems, and went with that. Once you make that decision, then you're pretty well locked into that decision for a while. And once you make that decision and you put your eggs in the Hunter basket, then you begin to develop customized pathways with that product that you don't have with other products. I can only, if I want something added in, school ID numbers is a perfect example. We developed, because of cognitive genesis, that was the impetus, but the big picture is we want student IDs for this new data roll-up. We developed student IDs. And I called Hunter and said, all new student IDs need to be 6 digits. And here's how you tap into the North American Division database so that when you, this year for cognitive genesis, and I'll spend some time on that if we have time today. If you want to talk about cognitive genesis, we can do that. When you go into cognitive genesis this year and you register your new students, they will automatically be given a new ID number. In the Hunter system, that ID number will automatically be available immediately. In RenWeb, they use a totally different ID number. It's totally different. And there's no way that I can call RenWeb and say, I want you to change your ID numbers to be 6 digits, and I want you to use them off our database, because I don't have a relationship with RenWeb. That's one example. So, as we move down the path and develop more and more technology based upon the NAD database, it's going to ostracize those schools further and further that are using something other than Hunter systems. Does that make sense? Does that mean that I'm bad-mouthing and against RenWeb? It's a natural consequence of a school choosing something other than what we're recommending from the division. Does that make sense? Every time I have this discussion, people call RenWeb and say that I'm beating them up and I'm bad-mouthing them, and I get these horrendous emails from their president. It's just natural consequences. We have said for the last 4 years, Hunter Systems is our vendor of choice. We are not going to beat you up if you're using something else, but there are going to be consequences if you're using something else. We are going to require you to get your data into NAD database. Is the database any good if we have 80% of the data in the database? Is the database any good? It's really not, because I can't run any statistical reports. I can't run anything that mean anything unless I have all the data there, right? Unless I have 100% of the data in the database, then the database itself is not a valuable database. So you have to get your information into that database. And we're trying to work with RenWeb to do that, to make that conversion, but there's a little bit of tension there to get that done. Long answer to a small question, but it's a big question. Yes?
Some of us have the Hunter system, but changed to RenWeb because it was recommended by our conferences. What do we do? In that case, in making the change, it was a financial concern for the schools because we have to purchase these things on our own.
All right, here's the issue. Go ahead.
I just see that's kind of where I'm getting at. I'm just, you have people come in, and those people are allowed to come in and sell their product. You buy into the product, and all of a sudden you realize that's not the product that, we should be using, because we want to be in touch with the total database.
See, I have a real problem, and I just wrote a letter to the president of RenWeb, an email, and I said in that letter that I have a real problem with their marketing techniques. What they do is they sell a conference on RenWeb, and then the conference forces every school in that conference to use RenWeb, whether they want to or not. We do not force you to use Hunter Systems. We encourage it, but we don't force you. If you are in your conference, you don't have a choice. You have to use RenWeb because that's what your conference said you had to use. There's a difference there. RenWeb says they have 200 of our schools. Probably 50 of that 200 are not using it. They don't like it. And I get these comments all the time from schools saying, why are we being forced to use RenWeb when we want to use what the division is recommending, but our conference won't let us? We need to deal with that, and the union directors and superintendents are trying to deal with that issue, but it's a tough one.
Well, I think finances is a big part of it.
Finances is a big part of it, but if you were to go out and buy RenWeb right now, you'd pay a lot more than you would if you bought Hunter. We've solved the financial issue. NAD, well, within reason, they're paying, what, 50 cents per student per month kind of thing for RenWeb. We're paying $50 per teacher per year.
Well, that's if you're on the small school, so
If you're in the large
I'm
school,
a small school, but I don't qualify for a small school because I'm a K-12 school.
yeah, and
That's really hard for us.
yeah, the larger schools, that's a different issue.
Yeah.
But small schools, we've solved the financial issue for the small schools. And we're working towards the other one.
It's a little more complicated in Canada because we're bound by a lot stricter provincial regulations. Is there any possibility that Hunter would address provincial concerns?
I'm going to get myself in big trouble. Hunter's willing to do that. They're more than willing to do that if those provinces will work with Hunter to do it. Part of the issue is that Hunter was not given an opportunity, an equal opportunity, because of family relationships between people that work at RenWeb and work at some of the conference offices. There, I said it. Hunter was not given the opportunity to do that. And number two, in many cases, RenWeb has not been able to deliver.
We won't go RenWeb either because they can't do the provincial.
Well, some provinces are doing RenWeb and they cannot deliver. I said there's still some issues. The problem with RenWeb is they don't have an office. They're run out of everybody's homes. The company is run out of homes. And if you call for service, I had this happen with a school just the other day. They called for service and they called and called and called, finally got a hold of somebody. And it was a lady doing dishes with her kids crying in the background. She's a home, a stay-at-home mom, and she's the service rep for RenWeb, and that's how they do their tech support. They don't even have an office. They don't own a building to have an office. The president lives in California. The marketing director lives in Virginia.
You said before you compared it to buying a car. Well, I see the major problem as the options aren't showed. When someone comes in and all of a sudden, you were using GradeQuick. All of a sudden, this new, online service comes in and it makes it so easier, and you have an Adventist teacher selling it, a former Adventist teacher selling it, but there's no options. I've never heard of Hunter, and I was sitting in one of the biggest schools, Adventist schools, and that's the only one that's sold. It's hard to buy, to look at an option and say, well, this is the best deal if they aren't showing.